For centuries, the fruits that ended up on human tables were the result of a very slow biological lottery. Early agriculture relied heavily on geographic isolation and accidental cross-pollination to develop new crop varieties over hundreds of generations. Those early agrarian societies weren't selecting seeds based on a perfect sweetness profile. They needed crops that could survive scorching droughts, resist local pests, and last through a long winter in a cellar. Survival and physical durability took absolute priority over taste. By the mid-20th century, those tough ancient crop lines had been scaled up to supply an exploding industrialized grocery system. The industry had trapped itself in a botanical triangle. Growers had to choose between a fruit that could sit on a truck for 2 weeks, a fruit that looked vibrant under fluorescent store lights, or a fruit that actually tasted good. Picking two meant sacrificing the third. Look at the two heavyweights dominating the melon market at the time. They represent this exact compromise perfectly. The cantaloupe offered bright orange flesh and a highly recognizable netted skin, but those original, deeply flavorful varieties were incredibly delicate, often spoiling just days after harvest, making them a logistical nightmare for large-scale shipping. The honeydew, part of the botanical Inodorus group, solved the shipping problem. It developed a tough, smooth rind and dense greenish flesh that could easily survive a cross-country train ride. But as the name of its plant group suggests, it had virtually no aroma. Scouring the globe for a wild melon to fix supply chain issues wasn't going to work. The industry needed evidence that a crop could be designed from the ground up to be both physically resilient for transport and intensely flavorful on the plate. In 1973, an agricultural researcher named Zvi Karchi began working at the New Era Research Center in Israel. His objective was highly specific. He wanted to cross the cantaloupe and the honeydew, deliberately extracting only the most commercially viable and physically desirable traits from each parent plant. This genetic diagram maps the crossbreeding. First, the hybrid adopted the golden netted skin of the cantaloupe for structural protection. Then, the blueprint shows the interior taking on the pale greenish-white flesh of the honeydew, providing physical density for storage. Karchi had successfully executed a biological schematic. He assembled a designer fruit piece by piece, and he named the resulting melon after his daughter, Gallia. The physical structure went exactly according to plan, but the crossbreeding produced a completely unexpected emergent property: the smell. Fully ripe Gallia melons emit an intense, heavy fragrance. It is a highly tropical, faintly spiced scent that borders on fermented when the fruit reaches its absolute peak. That aggressive aroma acts as a biological alert system. Unlike a standard honeydew, the Gallia broadcasts its exact state of ripeness to a farmer or a shopper before a knife ever touches the rind. The physical harvest mechanism is just as precise. When the Gallia hits peak maturity, it naturally slips from the vine. The stem cracks and snaps cleanly away without requiring a cutting tool. At that exact moment, the smooth skin hiding under the thick exterior netting undergoes a subtle but distinct color shift from green to warm yarrow. The Gallia was a triumph of biological user experience design. It was a self-signaling, highly flavorful piece of agricultural technology that entirely removed the guesswork from the harvest. That sensory precision translated perfectly into cold, hard logistics. This single hybrid crop rapidly scaled up across the country, transforming Israel into a major agricultural exporter on the commercial strength of this specific melon. This map shows the rapid outward spread of Karchi's blueprint. By the 1980s, agricultural operations in Spain and Morocco had adopted the Gallia, cultivating the hybrid at a massive commercial scale to supply European markets. One carefully engineered plant acted as an economic catalyst, spawning a highly lucrative international export industry out of a single greenhouse experiment. The commercial success of the Gallia established a new baseline for farming. Growers realized they did not have to settle for the forced choice between flavor and durability. They didn't have to wait centuries for the slow, random genetic lotteries of natural cross-pollination to deliver a viable crop. That 1973 experiment proved that a fruit could be constructed on a timeline, intentionally designed for both physical resilience and a flawless flavor profile, setting a precedent that still dictates the items we see in the produce aisle today.